Moonshiners Exclusive. Nervous groom Tickle gets hammered before his wedding day. By the time the sun rose over the rolling hills of Franklin County, Virginia, the scent of white lightning was already thick in the morning mist. In a weather-worn barn, tucked behind a thicket of pine trees, the Moonshiners crew was gathered, not to distill a fresh batch, but to prepare for an event far rarer than a legal drop of Tickle's shine: his wedding. Stephen Ray Tickle, known to millions simply as Tickle, was about to tie the knot. Except there was one problem he was missing. "He was here last night," mumbled Tim Smith, hands on his hips and eyes squinting against the rising sun. "I left him right here. We was celebratin', you know, proper bachelor style. Fire, shine, little Willie Nelson on the speakers. He was good." "Too good," mumbled Digger Mains, lifting the corner of a tarp and peering under it, as if Tickle might have crawled underneath for a nap. "I told you all," cut in Tickle's best man and fellow shiner, Huck. He was real nervous. Said something about cold feet and moonshine therapy. Tim scratched his beard. "So either he ran off or he passed out. Or both," added Mark, chuckling, though it faded quickly when he noticed Tim wasn't laughing. The wedding was just a few hours away, and the groom was off somewhere in the hills, nervous, possibly drunk, and definitely not in a tux. The night before it all started simple enough. Just a few mason jars clinking under the stars, the guys kicking back on hay bales, while Tickle sat in a lawn chair, eyes wide as the moon overhead. "I don't know, boys," he said, swirling his jar slowly. "I mean, I love her. I do. But marriage? That's like forever." Huck clapped him on the back. "And that's why you gotta be hammered for the rehearsal." Tickle grinned, but it didn't quite reach his eyes. "Yeah, well, shine don't scare me. But what if I screw it up?" "You won't," said Tim. "You'll be fine. You always are." But by midnight, Tickle's nerves had taken over. After a particularly strong swig of peach brandy, he muttered something about finding clarity, and wandered off into the woods with a jar and a flashlight. No one stopped him. He'd done it before. The Tickle Trail, they called it, his go-to retreat when he needed to clear his head, or drink himself into a philosophical coma under the stars. Only this time, the sun came up, and he hadn't come back. The Stitches, the wedding crew, kicked into crisis mode. Tim radioed in the others. "Anybody seen a drunk, barefoot man in camo pants and a wedding ring box?" "We're lookin'," came the reply from Jeff. "We're combing the creek bed. Found a sock and a half-empty jar. Was it peach brandy, Yep." "He's close," muttered Tim. "He never strays far from the brandy." Digger, always the practical one, made a call to the bride's maid of honor. "Tell her there's been a delay. Maybe suggest she do another facial or something. Spa stuff. You want me to lie to her, no? Just stretch the truth a little. Say he's gettin' a special surprise." Digger hung up. "If Tickle doesn't show, she's gonna kill him, and then we'll all be accessories." Meanwhile, in the woods behind the barn, a twig snapped. Tickle's revelation Tickle awoke on a bed of moss with a jar clutched to his chest and a raccoon staring at him like it had questions. "Where am I?" he muttered. The raccoon blinked and wandered off. He sat up, rubbed his temples, and tried to retrace his steps. Bits of the night came back, talking to a tree, shouting about freedom, crying to a stump shaped like his ex-wife's lawyer. He wasn't proud. But he remembered something else too. Her smile. The way she scrunched her nose when she laughed. The time she helped him haul 50 pounds of corn mash without blinking. "She's the real deal," he muttered. "I'm a damn fool." He stood up, swayed, and found his boot lodged in the crook of a tree root. After a solid 10 minutes of drunken tugging and cursing, he limped out toward the barn. Showdown at the barnet was 10:23 a.m. when Tickle stumbled out of the woods like a Civil War soldier returning from battle, mud-covered, eyes red, and clutching the now empty jar like a sacred relic. "There he is," Huck shouted. "You look like death on a biscuit," Diva said, handing him a thermos of black coffee. Tickle took one sniff and nearly passed out. "No time. Sit me up." "You ain't taken a shower?" asked Tim. "Time don't wait for Stink Tim." With a combination of baby wipes, cologne, and desperation, the Moonshiners transformed Tickle from Appalachian castaway into wedding-worthy groom. The tux, surprisingly, fit like a glove, though he insisted on wearing his signature trucker hat during the ceremony. "Compromise," he said, brushing it off. She knew who she was marrying. The wedding the guests were seated. The bluegrass trio tuned up. The bride, radiant in white lace and cowboy boots, stood at the edge of the clearing, eyes scanning for her wayward fans. Then the music swelled. By Huck and Tim, Tickle, moving a little wobbly, but grinning like a man who knew just how lucky he was. Gasps turned to laughs, and a few tears glistened in the crowd. When he reached the altar, he took her hands and whispered, "Sorry I was late. Got lost looking for a sign." She raised an eyebrow. "Find one?" he nodded. "Yep. It was a raccoon. Judged me hard. Turned my life around." She laughed. The vows were heartfelt, if occasionally slurred. The "I do's" rang out true, and when they kissed, the crowd erupted. Somewhere in the back, someone fired off a celebratory shotgun blast. Classic Virginia wedding. The reception under a string of lights hung between two oak trees. The Moonshiners crowd partied like only they could. Barrels of home-brewed cider flowed freely, and jars of celebratory shine were passed around like communion. Diva and Ma command the BBQ. Tim gave a toast that mostly turned into a monologue about loyalty and the beauty of moonlight on still water. Huck gave a short speech ending with, "We all knew it'd take a special woman to wrangle Tickle. We just didn't think she'd actually say yes." Tickle danced barefoot. The bride spun in circles. Someone tried to line dance and ended up in the fire pit. They were fine. By midnight, the couple disappeared into a beat-up Winnebago with a "Just Shying" sign taped to the back. The morning after, Tickle reappeared at dawn, sipping a thermos of coffee and looking remarkably chipper. "How's married life?" asked Tim. Tickle stretched. "Feels like a hangover, but in a good way." "Y'all got any plans?" "Yeah. Gonna take a little honeymoon. Maybe Pigeon Forge. Maybe somewhere with a hot tub and no cell signal. You bringin' Shine, course?" Tim nodded. "Well, congrats, man." "Thanks," Tickle said. "And next time I go missin' before a big day, just send the raccoon." Epiloguing the Moonshiners' world, chaos is tradition, and nothing ever goes exactly as planned. But sometimes, just sometimes, even a nervous groom with a shine habit and a crooked smile finds his happily ever after. And somewhere in the woods of Franklin County, a raccoon raises a paw in sullen approval. Moonshiners Exclusive. Nervous groom Tickle gets hammered before his wedding day. It was supposed to be the happiest day of his life. But for Stephen Ray Tickle, known across Appalachia and beyond simply as Tickle, his wedding day began the same way many of his stories do, with a mason jar of high-octane moonshine and a whole lot of trouble. The moon was still high over the hills of Culpeper, Virginia, when the Moonshiners crew got the first clue that things weren't going as planned. "Has anybody seen Tickle?" Tim Smith asked, rubbing the sleep out of his eyes as he stood in the middle of a half-decorated barn that smelled of wildflowers, grilled meat, and fresh-cut pine. Digger Mains let out a sigh. He was here last night. He was dancing on a table at one point. Said he wanted to practice his moves before the first dance. Well, that was before he started drinking that 150 proof cinnamon mash. Mark Rogers chimed in. Said it helped settle his nerves. That wasn't a drink, Tim muttered. That was a chemical weapon. The group looked around. Empty mason jars littered the barn. A tuxedo jacket hung off a tractor. Someone had drawn a mustache on the bride and groom sign with charcoal. Tickle was nowhere to be seen, and in just 5 hours he was supposed to be standing under an oak tree, exchanging vows with the love of his life, Emily. Flashback. The night before Tickle never thought he'd be the marrying kind. I ain't exactly what you'd call a conventional catch, he'd said during his toast at the rehearsal dinner. But somehow, Emily said yes. I think it was either true love or mild head trauma. The crowd roared with laughter, but everyone knew how smitten he was. From the moment he met Emily, a tough, sweet, moonshine-savvy girl who could carry a 50-pound mash bag like it was a purse, he'd been hooked. Still, when the last guest left and the barn got quiet, a different side of Tickle started to emerge. She deserves better, he told Tim, pacing in front of the still where he'd distilled a custom batch of wedding shine. Don't do that, Tim said. Don't go second-guessing yourself. I'm just saying, marriage is forever. And I'm me. And she knows that, Tim said, clapping him on the shoulder. She don't want someone else. She wants Tickle. Warts, weirdness, whiskey breath, and all. That helped for a minute. But when the boys broke out the strong stuff, Tickle's own experimental blend of apple pie and high-proof lightning, things went sideways. I found his boot. Huck shouted from behind the barn, holding up a muddy, worn-out boot like it was a trophy. And a half-eaten bag of pork rinds, Digger joined him, squinting into the tree line. He's definitely been out here. I see tracks. Could be his. Could be a possum. Hard to tell.